Good evening and welcome back. The Supreme Court on Friday sealed Ruth Kamande's fate by rejecting her appeal in the death penalty conviction she was handed in 2018 after the High Court found her guilty of murdering her boyfriend Mohammed Halim in 2015. Ruth stabbed Mohammed 25 times following a domestic scuffle, leaving him dead. The Supreme Court, finding Ruth's argument that she suffered from the battered woman syndrome when the offense took place, did not hold even in the lower courts. As NTV's Bridget Sangana explains, this was the first time the Supreme Court discussed the possibility of the battered woman syndrome being used as a defense in a murder case, but in context.
The sentence for murder is the death penalty. It is true that
on 31st May 2018, Lady Justice Jessie Lasit handed the death penalty to Ruth Kamande after she was found guilty of killing her boyfriend Mohammed Halim by stabbing him with a knife back in 2015 in Buruburu, Nairobi County. The Court of Appeal upheld this ruling. Ruth then chose to take the fight for her freedom to the Supreme Court. In her petition to the Supreme Court, Ruth argued that on the fateful day, she was reacting to a history of physical and psychological abuse from Mohammed. However, while the Supreme Court acknowledged the possibility of the battered woman syndrome being used as a defense, it ruled that in Ruth's case, it just didn't apply. The judgment saying that the application of the battered woman syndrome should be contextualized. Part of the judgment reading, and I quote, "Critics often argue that allowing the battered woman syndrome as a blanket defense could lead to unjust outcomes, such as allowing women to kill their abusers without sufficient scrutiny. The validity and reliability of the battered woman syndrome as a clinical diagnosis, as opposed to a legal construct, remains controversial," end of quote.
If you administer one blow as you run away, that is reasonable force. And I have seen many spouses, many women escape with a non-custodial sentence. But Barbara, in Ruth Kamande's case, this is a case of 25 stab wounds. This is outrageous. You can't say this person was trying to run away. This is a person who wanted to ensure that Mohammed was silenced completely, silenced forever.
The Supreme Court also based the dismissal of Ruth's appeal on grounds that she had never raised the physical abuse in her defense, both at the High Court and at the Court of Appeal, saying, and I quote, "Her own evidence demonstrates that she was not involved in a toxic relationship, but rather in a typical boyfriend-girlfriend dynamic. This raises the crucial question of whether the battered woman syndrome was adequately raised and addressed by the courts below. We firmly find it was not. The nature of the relationship between the appellant and the deceased, while it may have been raised at the trial court as self-defense, did not persuade the court from concluding that the appellant was not a victim, but rather the perpetrator who contributed to the toxicity of the relationship," end of quote.
I think into the future, this issue should be pushed to the next level, especially considering mental health issues that continue to disturb families. The courts have pronounced themselves a lot of times that a death sentence is a violation of the Bill of Rights as far as murder is concerned. If you're found guilty with the offense of robbery with violence under Section 296(2) of the Penal Code, as well as treason under Section 40 of the Penal Code, the only sentence that is available is the sentence of death.
Supreme Court rulings are usually the final decisions issued by the judiciary on appeals by the lower courts. And now Ruth Kamande will be left to serve her sentence, but her only way out now lies in the clemency board that sits under the executive. Bridget Ngana, NTV, Nakuru.